The morning sun barely crept through the pine trees in my Charlotte backyard, casting long shadows across the grass. My heart was pounding as I stood frozen, watching my 10-year-old daughter, Emma, gasp for air like she'd just sprinted a mile. Her oxygen line, the thin tube that kept her alive, was sliced clean in half, hissing uselessly. And there, slipping through the bushes with a pair of garden shears, was my nightmare neighbor, Susan. 5 minutes later, the sky roared, and 3 Black Hawk helicopters swooped in low, shaking the ground like a scene from a war movie. This wasn't just a neighborhood spat. It was war, and Susan had no idea what she'd unleashed. I'm Jack Bennett, a 42-year-old single dad who's seen my share of chaos, from desert deployments to managing supply chains at Fort Bragg, just a short drive from our North Carolina suburb. My world revolves around Emma, my little artist with a rare lung condition that makes every breath a battle. Her oxygen machine, a noisy beast, pumps air through a long tube that stretches to the backyard where she sketches her quirky cartoon creatures under a sprawling oak. That tube is her lifeline. But to some folks in our pristine Willow Creek estates, it's a crime against their perfect lawns and identical mailboxes. Enter Susan Mitchell, 50, the HOA's self-appointed dictator. At 5 feet 8 inches, with a perm that defies gravity and a smile that screams, "I'm calling the cops," she's the kind of person who'd fine you for a blade of grass out of place. Her mission? Keep Willow Creek flawless. Her target? Me and Emma's oxygen tube, which she swore was tanking property values. We moved here 6 months ago, hoping for a fresh start after Emma's last hospital scare. I'm no stranger to tough spots. 10 years in the Army taught me to dodge bullets and red tape, but Susan was a new kind of enemy. From day one, she was at my door, clipboard in hand, whining about my truck parked an inch off the curb. By week 2, she was griping about my recycling bin. By month 3, she was obsessed with Emma's tube. To me, it was invisible. To Susan, it was a neon sign screaming ruined curb appeal. I tried reasoning with her, showed her Emma's medical papers, even offered to let her talk to the doctor. Her response? If she's that sick, keep her inside where she belongs. The air turned icy when she said that. I'm a patient guy. Fort Bragg Logistics will do that to you, but Susan was testing me. She launched a crusade. Daily emails about violations, fines for non-compliant landscaping, and whispers to neighbors that I was trouble. Some stopped waving. Emma noticed. "Dad, why's everyone mad?" she asked one night, her big eyes searching mine. It broke my heart. Susan wasn't just annoying, she was relentless, snapping photos of the tube like it was evidence in a murder trial. I caught her lecturing my neighbor Mike, an ex-Marine, about how the Bennett situation was crashing home values. Mike shrugged, like, "What can you do?" Susan had the HOA board in her pocket, and they were terrified of her. She'd call emergency meetings to rant about us, saying I was making Willow Creek look like a charity case. Charity case? I was just keeping my kid alive. The worst part? She got to Emma not directly, thank God, but kids hear things. One day, Emma came inside, her sketchpad untouched, and whispered, "Mrs. Mitchell says my tube's ugly. Am I making the street look bad?" I hugged her tight, told her she was the prettiest thing in Willow Creek, but inside, I was boiling. Susan wasn't just coming for mesh, was making my daughter feel like a problem. That's when I knew this wasn't just HOA nonsense. It was personal. I fought back quietly. I installed a military-grade security camera, crystal clear, and saved every email, fine, and nasty note. I talked to Mike, who hinted that Fort Bragg's training unit owed him a favor. "Want a show? I can make it happen," he said with a grin. I didn't know what he meant, but I filed it away. Susan thought she had me cornered, but she didn't know who she was messing with. A dad with a sick kid and a decade in the Army doesn't back down. Susan didn't just double down, she went scorched earth. One morning, I was sipping Jish's coffee when my phone pinged with an HOA email. Immediate action required. Non-compliant medical equipment. It demanded I remove Emma's tube within 24 hours or face legal action, including property seizure. Seizure? For a medical device? Susan's digital signature screamed in all caps, accusing certain residents of dragging down Willow Creek's prestige. I marched to her house, papers in hand, ready to talk sense. Her yard was a shrine to bad taste: plastic flamingos, a swan-shaped mailbox, a live, laugh, love sign begging for mercy. She answered, her perm defying physics. Before I could speak, she cut me off. "Jack, I'm busy. That tube's an eyesore. You're lucky we've been lenient." Lenient? I held up Emma's medical records, explaining why the tube was non-negotiable. Rules are rules, Mr. Bennett. You're used to bending them in the army, but not here. I was stunned. This woman turned my kid's survival into a power trip. The HOA bylaws were so vague. Susan could do whatever she wanted under community standards. She called a meeting, and I showed up expecting a discussion. It was a lynching. Susan had a PowerPoint titled, Preserving Willow Creek's Value. Slide 1. A blurry photo of Emma's tube, captioned, Unacceptable Visual Pollution. Slide 2. A graph claiming our house was tanking property values. Neighbors nodded like zombies or avoided my eyes. Susan paced like a TV lawyer. This isn't personal, she said, staring at me. But some residents are making Willow Creek look like a hospital ward. A guy in the back, Greg, piped up, yeah, it's not safe. Safe. It's oxygen, not a gas leak. I stood, voice steady. My daughter needs that tube to breathe. Anyone got a problem with that? Silence. Susan smirked. We'll vote on enforcement next week. I called Mike, who laughed a dangerous laugh. Jack, you're a soldier. Don't fight her war. Change the battlefield. Ever seen a Black Hawk up close? I didn't know what he was planning, but I trusted him. Susan kept escalating, posting photos of my backyard on the neighborhood Facebook group, captioned, Who wants to live next to this? Comments piled up. Disgusting. Move to a trailer park. Emma saw it before I could delete the app. Dad, am I making the street ugly? She whispered, eyes wet. I knelt, heartbreaking. You're making it beautiful, kiddo. But I was done playing nice. I set my camera to record 24/7, catching every detail. Then came the final straw. A neon orange notice on my door. Final warning. Remove medical equipment or face eviction. Susan's name was scrawled like a death warrant. Eviction for a tube keeping my kid alive? I called Mike. She's unhinged, I said, pacing. His voice was too calm. Jack, I've got something in the works. Keep your cameras rolling. Susan turned the Facebook group into her propaganda machine, posting a photo of Emma's tube circled in red. This is why our home values are plummeting. Neighbors I thought were friends piled on. Get rid of it. Why can't they move? Emma overheard. Does everyone hate it? She trembled. I pulled her close, seething. Susan was turning my daughter into a pariah. Saturday morning, 6 a.m., I was pouring coffee when Emma screamed from the backyard, a terrified, gasping scream. I dropped the mug, shattering on the floor, and sprinted outside. Emma was in her patio chair, clutching her chest, face pale as milk. Her oxygen tube was sliced in half, hissing air. Dad, I can't breathe, she choked. I grabbed the backup canister, hooked it up with shaking hands, and watched her color return. My heart pounded as I checked the camera feed. There was Susan, in a black hoodie, sneaking into my yard at dawn. She looked at the camera, smirked, and snipped the tube. My blood turned to ice. This wasn't petty, it was attempted murder. I was about to study her house when my phone buzzed. Mike, check the sky. I stepped outside. Emma safe with the backup, and heard a thundering roar. 3 Black Hawk helicopters from Fort Bragg burst over the tree line, flying so low the ground shook, windows rattled, and dogs howled. Neighbors spilled onto their lawns, mouths agape. Susan stumbled out, still in curlers, face wider than Emma's had been. Mike's truck pulled up, and he hopped out with a grin, flanked by a dozen camo-clad vets from the base. Morning, Jack, he said, loud enough for Susan to hear. Heard someone's messing with a soldier's family. Bad move. Susan clutched her robe like a shield. Neighbors whispered, pointing, and my phone buzzed with texts from the Facebook group. Is this about the Bennetts? I grabbed my phone, pulled up the footage. Susan, clear as day, cutting Emma's lifeline. It wasn't just evidence, it was a smoking gun. Mike tossed me a USB drive. Upload it. My friend runs a military family forum. It'll spread like wildfire. I nodded, adrenaline surging. Inside, I checked on Emma, coloring on the couch, her breathing steady. Are those your work helicopters, Dad? She asked. I laughed despite everything. Something like that. I uploaded the video to the forum with a